Direction. Patricia Trish Halvorson, queen of the Maple Crest Homeowners Association, was in the middle of one of her famous rants, waving her hands and shouting about unauthorized road modifications. Behind her, 3 lawyers sat like stone gargoyles, nodding along to her fury. She spoke for 20 minutes straight, her words landing like gravel on asphalt. He's endangering the neighborhood. He's devalued every single property, she cried, and the projector behind her threw giant red arrows over photos of the road I had fixed with my own 2 hands. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, silent, waiting, one piece of folded paper burning in my jacket pocket, a document that would turn everything upside down. Because while she was accusing me of vandalism, rolled across my property to get here. My name's Daniel Mercer, 52 years old, retired civil engineer, single dad. 5 years ago, I bought a modest ranch house at the edge of Maple Crest Estates, thinking I'd found peace after the wreckage of a divorce that nearly took everything. I wanted quiet, just a place where my daughter Lucy could visit on weekends, a place where the air didn't taste like courtrooms and lawyers' breath. At first, Maple Crest looked perfect. Tree-lined streets, kids on bikes, the sound of sprinklers at dusk, the American dream on cul-de-sac asphalt. They replaced gardens with gravel, backyard swings with security cameras, and neighbors with rules. And at the center of it all was Trish. She arrived in 2020, 48 years old. Man who'd learned it was safer not to speak. Trish joined the HOA within weeks of moving in. Within months, she was the HOA. She called herself the community's conscience, a phrase that still makes me laugh when I think about it. Everything was fine until the winter of 2024. The snow came heavy that year, the kind that turns roads into rivers and asphalt into lace. When it finally broken edges, cracks running like spider veins across the surface. I knew exactly what was happening. The foundation beneath had failed, and if no one fixed it soon, the road would crumble. So I did what engineers do. I offered to help. I sent a polite email to the HOA board, even attached a cost estimate. The reply came back from Trish within an hour. All modifications to one too many elderly residents nearly tripping over the mess. That was when I snapped. I called my old friend Eddie Ramos, a contractor I'd worked with for years. He showed up in his old pickup, smelling like diesel and coffee, and together we spent an entire weekend filling those holes the right way. Proper preparation, hot mix asphalt, compacted edges. Cost me $3,200 out of pocket. But it was done right. By Monday, people could drive again without losing hubcaps. Neighbors waved. One woman even baked me banana bread. I thought I'd done a good thing. 48 hours later, I found a certified letter in my mailbox. Cease and desist. Unauthorized modification of HOA property. Fine, $500. Accruing $200 per day until I restored the road to original condition. Original condition? You mean the craters? The following week, Trish called an emergency HOA meeting. 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, convenient for everyone with a job, of course. I walked into the community center to find her standing in front of a projector screen with a PowerPoint titled Community Violations, a case study. This resident, she said, never using my name, has created significant liability for Maple Crest Estates. She clicked through photos of my work, each labeled like evidence at a crime scene. Unauthorized material, she barked. Non-compliant slope. No aesthetic alignment. When she finished, the board, her personal choir, voted unanimously to fine me. That's when something in me shifted. I wasn't going to play defense anymore. At the next meeting, I came armed with data, a full engineering report, material analysis, traffic counts, photos of proper drainage. My repairs exceeded county standards. I handed copies to everyone. Trish's eyes narrowed. We have our own expert, she said. Her expert was her brother-in-law, a lawn care technician. His engineering assessment was written on Greenleaf landscaping letterhead. When I pointed that out, the room laughed. Trish turned crimson. 3 of her board members resigned that night out of pure embarrassment. But Trish didn't crumble. She multiplied. She replaced them within days with new loyalists, real estate friends, one of whom she'd sold a house to the week before. Then she rewrote the bylaws. My fine jumped to $1,000 plus $500 per day. A new rule appeared requiring approved contractors. Guess who the only approved contractor was? Graham's golf buddy. That's when I knew this wasn't about rules. It was about control. After that, the harassment began. Trish drove by my house every morning, taking photos. She fined me for Lucy's car being improperly parked in my driveway. She fined me for every date, every photo. Proof of selective enforcement. Then, one evening, there was a knock on my door. It was Mrs. Liu, the sweet widow who lived 3 houses down. She carried a tin of cookies and a folder thick with old papers. "Daniel," she whispered, "my husband helped start this HOA. You should see what's inside." Inside were the original covenants from 1983, typed on yellowing paper. Signatures, meeting minutes, amendments. I spread them out across my kitchen table like a detective. That's when I realized most of Trish's rules, the petty nonsense about grass height. Recorder's office, the smell of old paper thick in the air. I dug through archives until my fingers turned gray with dust. And that's when I found it. The subdivision plat for Maple Crest Estates. Listed Oak Hollow Lane as a private parcel, retained by the original developer, later transferred to a holding company, and then, my heart stopped, to Mercer Development LLC. My uncle's company. When he passed in 2018, I'd inherited boxes of paperwork I'd never sorted. That night, I tore through them until I found it. A deed for Oak Hollow Lane. It was mine. The road. The only road in or out of the neighborhood. I owned it. I called my attorney, Laura Patel, the next morning. She ran the title search twice, just to be sure. "Daniel," she said, finally leaning back in her chair, feeling a slow burn of disbelief and satisfaction. Trish had spent 6 months fining me for fixing my own road. But I didn't storm over to her house. I waited, because arrogance always digs its own grave. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, Trish raised my fines again, $25,000 total, and announced an emergency community meeting. She invited local news to cover it. When the day came, the community center was packed. People in folding chairs, cameras in the back. Trish strutted to the podium, smiling like a game show host. "This resident," she began, "has refused to comply with HOA directives and continues to endanger community property." She waved her arms dramatically at the screen showing photos of my perfectly smooth asphalt. I let her talk for 20 minutes. Map across the table. The cameras zoomed in. "Before we discuss road violations," I said, "let's clarify who owns the road." The silence that followed could have swallowed the building whole. "Crest crosses my private property. I've been maintaining it at my own expense while being fined for doing so. The HOA never had authority over it." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. People gasped. Neighbors whispered. Someone even laughed. She tried to recover. "This is fake. It's fraud." The county official shook his head again. "No, ma'am. This is legitimate." Trish's empire cracked in that instant. But I wasn't done. "I'm offering a solution," I said. "A cooperative agreement. Each household pays a small monthly fee for maintenance. I'll retain ownership, but you'll have a say in how it's managed. Fair and transparent." Half the room nodded. The other half just stared at Trish, waiting for her to speak. She screamed something about blackmail and stormed out. That night, the story aired on local TV. HOA president humiliated after homeowner reveals he owns the neighborhood's only road. It went viral. But as I would soon learn, Trish wasn't the type to lose gracefully. I thought that night would be the end of it. The big reveal, the shock, the silence, the collapse of the self-appointed queen's empire. But if there's one thing I've learned about people like Trish Halvorson, it's that losing control doesn't humble them. It makes them dangerous. The following morning, before the sun even came up, I found a new envelope taped to my front door. Thick paper, HOA letterhead, her perfume faintly lingering on it. Final notice of fines, $70,000, unauthorized modifications, and fraudulent claims. Foreclosure and sale of property. Foreclosure on a man who owned the ground under her tires. That's when I realized this wasn't just about pettiness anymore. It was about pride. About the kind of person who'd rather burn everything down than admit they were wrong. So I didn't reply. I waited again. Because silence, I'd learned, was the loudest thing you could throw at a. The other half called her a lunatic. Meanwhile, something unexpected began happening. My neighbors started talking to me again. Quiet knocks on the door at night. Apologies whispered in my driveway. "Dan, said Mr. Garcia, the guy who lived 2 streets over. She fined me for my son's chalk drawings on the sidewalk. Dan, said Mrs. Peterson, clutching her grocery bag like a shield, could turn home into hostage. Lucy, my daughter, who'd been watching all this unfold with the kind of righteous teenage anger only 17-year-olds possess, decided it was time to fight back her way. Dad, she said, sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop, we're taking this online. She created a Facebook group called Fair Living Maple Crest. She posted every photo, every document, every fine, every piece of proof I'd gathered. Within a week, there were 200 members, not just from our neighborhood, but from across the state. People with their own HOA horror stories. It became a movement overnight. Trish tried to fight it by creating her own group, Protect Maple Values, but her posts read like propaganda, screenshots of bylaws she'd written herself, captions about preserving community integrity. It was so transparently desperate that even her old supporters began to drift away. Then Lucy found something that changed everything again. She'd been scrolling through Graham Halvorson's law firm reviews online, reading complaints, when one caught her eye. Billed for services never rendered related to HOA enforcement. We dug deeper. Graham's firm handled legal disputes for multiple HOAs, and all those new, approved contractor rules Trish had introduced. The companies were clients of his. The HOA fines funded his fees. My attorney, Laura, filed a motion to invalidate the lien before lunch. They can't do this, she said flatly, without a court order. This is extortion, plain and simple. I nodded. Let her keep digging, I said. She's almost through the floor. And dig she did. She held a press conference, outside the community center, bragging about how the HOA was finally holding bad actors accountable. The local station aired it. But the anchor's smirk said it all. The comments were brutal. By now, the neighborhood had split cleanly in two. I sent a simple message to every household. Community meeting, 2 p.m., same location. Important updates about road ownership and HOA integrity. That was it. No drama. No hashtags. Just calm confidence. Trish panicked. She scheduled her own emergency action against fraudulent resident for the exact same time, complete with flyers and guest appearances by county officials. Battlefield of lawn chairs and divided loyalties. Some stood near Trish's entrance, others near mine. The tension was so thick you could taste it. Inside, Trish was already mid-speech, even pulling out a ruler to demonstrate grass violations. Finally, she turned toward me, her voice smug. Would you like to defend yourself, Mr. Mercer? I walked to the front of the room slowly, like a man carrying something heavy, not in my hands, but in truth. Before we talk about violations, I said quietly, let's talk about ownership. I unfolded the same surveyor's map, laid down the deed, and slid it toward the county official. He adjusted his glasses, studied the seal, and nodded. It's valid, he said. The room fell silent. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, for 5 years, you've been driving across property I own. I've maintained it at my own expense. The HOA has never had authority here. The fines, the threats, all of it, are meaningless. Trish stammered something about community precedent. I shook my head. Precedent doesn't override ownership. And then I did the one thing she never expected. I offered peace. I'm not here to punish anyone. I'm offering a road cooperative. $40 a month per household. Full transparency. Maintenance by licensed contractors. Everyone wins. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then someone clapped. Then another. And another. Trish's face twisted. He's extorting you, she screamed. This is blackmail. But the crowd was done listening. That night, the footage hit the news again. Her shrieking accusations versus my calm explanation. The contrast was cinematic. Social media tore her apart. 3 days later, she sent me an email. Cease all fraudulent claims or face full legal action by Friday at 5 p.m. So I called her bluff. That Friday, just before sunset, I arrived at the community center with Laura, the surveyor, and a stack of private road, Mercer Development LLC signs. The parking lot was packed. Trish had organized what she called a Save Our Neighborhood rally. She even printed signs. Stop the road bully. But I had one thing she didn't, the law. Mrs. Liu, bless her, stepped forward to mediate, her voice soft but steady. Let's all hear Mr. Mercer's proposal, she said. I presented the plan one final time. $40 a month, professional maintenance, community oversight, a 5-year rate lock. Trish, trembling with fury, announced, "We don't need his road. We'll build a new one." The county official standing by finally interjected, "Ma'am, there are no available easements. The cost would exceed $2 million. The color drained from her face. And that's when I ended it. "Mrs. Halvorson," I said, voice calm but sharp as glass, "for 6 months, you fined me for maintaining my own property, while your husband's firm collected fees from every enforcement action. You've harassed families, intimidated seniors, and turned this neighborhood into a courtroom." Her lips quivered, but I didn't let up. "You call me a bully? You've built an empire on fear. But it's over now." The crowd went utterly still. "Here's the deal," I continued. "Sign the cooperative agreement, and the road remains open. Refuse." 35 households signed on. 8 were undecided. 6, Trish's inner circle, stormed out with her, muttering about lawsuits. The next morning, I installed the signs, "Private road. Authorized access only." Trish called the sheriff. Claimed vandalism of public property. The deputy took one look at the deed, tipped his hat, and said, "Ma'am, this is his road." Kickback scheme. They sold their house quietly and vanished by winter. And just like that, peace returned. Now, 6 months later, the Oak Hollow Cooperative is official, 37 households. Transparent accounting, professional maintenance. The road has never looked better. We even planted decorative shrubs along the edges, thanks to Mrs. Lou's insistence on a touch of grace. Our annual maintenance meeting feels more like a block party than a boardroom now. Kids play soccer in the street. People bring food. Laughter echoes where fear used to live. Property values have gone up. But more than that, trust has come back. Lucy, my fierce, brilliant daughter, started college this fall, studying public policy. She says the whole mess inspired her final essay. How ordinary citizens can dismantle institutional abuse. Sometimes I catch her smiling when we drive down Oak Hollow Lane. "You built this road twice, Dad," she says. "Once with asphalt, and once with guts." I smile back, because she's right. The local news did a follow-up story called "The Road That Fought Back." It aired across the state. I've gotten emails from people in other neighborhoods, people standing up to their own miniature dictators, using our case as a model. We even founded a small nonprofit, the Fair Living Initiative, to educate homeowners about their rights and help them navigate HOA abuse without losing their sanity. I never wanted to be an activist. I just wanted a quiet life. But sometimes peace only comes after a storm. And now, every time I drive down that smooth blacktop, I remember the look on Trish's face when she realized the truth, that every inch of her crusade had been waged on my property. I don't hate her. Honestly, I pity her. Power without empathy always eats itself alive. So when people ask me what I learned from all this, I tell them this. Documentation beats intimidation. Patience beats. Volunteer days, movie nights. Even the old-timers say it feels like the early years again. Mrs. Lou's rose garden is in full bloom, a cascade of reds and whites that catch the evening sun like lawsuits that never happened, but we filled them, like we filled the potholes, layer by layer, care by care, with something that lasts. And if there's a moral buried in all that asphalt and paperwork, it's this. Community isn't built by rules. It's built by respect. So here's my question for you. For anyone watching, anyone who's ever been cornered by someone waving a clipboard in a little bit of power, when authority goes too far, when fairness turns into fear, when doing the right thing costs you everything you've got, would you fight back? Or would you let them pave right?